This is a quick guide for San Lane Unholy Death Knight in the War Within Season 1. Starting off, we are going to be using the, Exhumed Centurion's Choices as our set. Your minions deal more damage. When you summon a minion, you get more haste, and that can stack. Woohoo, very simple there. Looking at the San Lane, basically, our Death Coil and Epidemic, two of our runic power spenders, are going to have a chance to make our Scourge Strike become Vampiric Strike. TLDR, as your number one priority, use this whenever it procs. There are a few other things we're going to get, which I'll go through more detail in a minute. So use your Scourge Strike whenever it procs. If you don't know about Scourge Strike, maybe you're new to Unholy, basically we have Festering Strike here, which will add pustulant lesions known as festering wounds onto our target. Our Scourge Strike will actually then burst these wounds. So we're going to build up wounds and then burst them. That's basically how the rotation works. So use your Scourge Strike whenever it procs. Then we have Defile, which will do AoE damage, as you can see on the floor here. Stand within it at all times. You can see here, Scourge Strike will hit 7 enemies near the target. So we are going to do more damage to AoE as well when standing in it. So keep that up. It's on a 20-second recharge. We can use it twice. Then we have Soul Reaper. Basically, this will explode, doing a load of damage and do more damage onto the target, but you only want to use it when they're below 35% health. Then we have Death Coil. This is our main runic power spender, because we've got runic power here. We don't want to cap on this, and we've got our runes. So Death Coil, whenever it procs, as you can see here, use it, or whenever you're over 80 runic power, which we are. So basically, we're not capping on our runic power, and we're using it whenever we proc. That is from something here called Sudden Doom. Your auto attacks have a chance to make your next Death Coil cost less runic power and also critically strike. And your next Death Coil will, additionally, your next Death Coil after it will burst a festering wound. It will also put this debuff onto the target. Death Coil and Epidemic debilitate your enemy, applying Death Rot, causing them to take more and more damage, up to 10% from you for 10 seconds. If Death Coil or Epidemic consumes Sudden Doom, it applies 2 stacks. So when you use it a proc, it will get 2 stacks of that. TLDR, we're also going to use our Death Coil here to keep up that debuff on the target at all times. Then we're going to use Outbreak to keep up debuffs on the target. 3 of them, in fact. Virulent Plague, Frost Fever, and Blood Plague. They're basically 3 dots, damage over time spells on the target. Keep those 3 up at all times. If you've got none or only 1 or 2 festering wounds, use your Festering Strike to apply festering wounds. If you've got 3 or more, use Scourge Strike to burst them. And then we're going to use Death Coil here basically just as a filler if we have an excess amount of runic power and we've gotten all the way down this far in the priority list. Same as Scourge Strike, just use it really as a filler here if you've got a few wounds and you've got nothing else to press. So again, use Scourge Strike whenever it transforms into, ta-da, Vampiric Strike. Keep up your Defile at all times. Use Soul Reaper when they're below 35% health. Use Death Coil when it procs to keep up Death Rot as well. And also when you're over 80 runic power. Use Outbreak to keep up the debuffs, which is these 3, Virulent Plague, Frost Fever, and Blood Plague. Use Festering Strike to generate wounds. Use Scourge Strike to burst them. Use Death Coil basically as a filler at this point to spend any excess runic power you still have. And then Scourge Strike as well. You can use Epidemic to spread your diseases to nearby targets if you're in AoE. That's also going to cost runic power. You can use it instead of Death Coil in that situation. We then have a few cooldowns. Apocalypse, which you'll notice you can only use when there's wounds on the target. It summons an army of ghouls and will burst wounds on the target. We've got Dark Transformation, where your ghoul, which you should have by using Raise Dead before you go into combat. Your ghoul deals damage to nearby enemies and transforms, being super duper basically empowered. You can raise an Abomination, attacking and applying festering wounds when it attacks and afflicting nearby targets with Virulent Plague, the same disease that your Outbreak does, and Abomination Limb, which does AoE damage. I would say for this, just use these on cooldown all together if you will. And also again, when you get any procs and a Scourge Strike, use it. Lastly, Mind Freeze is your kick or interrupt. Lichborn is a defensive, adding leech and reducing damage, and Icebound Fortitude massively reduces damage taken. A few other things on the hero talents. We've got Infliction of Sorrow here. When Vampiric Strike damages an enemy afflicted by your Virulent Plague, it extends the duration of the disease and deals 10% of the remaining damage. After Gift of the San Lane ends, your next Scourge Strike consumes the disease to deal even more damage. So whenever you get a proc, use your Scourge Strike, as I said before. And then we do have it here, Gift of the San Lane. While Vampiric Blood or Dark Transformation is active, you gain Gift of the Sand Lane. Gift of the Sand Lane increases the effectiveness of your Essence of the Blood Queen, and Vampiric Strike replaces your Scourge Strike for the entire duration. And the rest of the hero talents basically just passively improve how those abilities work. Now, this was, of course, a very quick guide on this rotation. If you want to see the full guide, check out the pinned comment in this video. I have a separate channel which is dedicated purely to World of Warcraft rather than just quick guides in games. And that will be the full guide there for Sand Lane for you. If you are looking for other PvE or PvP quick guides in the War Within, check out this playlist here as I've done all of them for you.